I found out my mother sold my house on a Tuesday afternoon in March, sitting in a coffee shop 3 states away from where I grew up, scrolling through my email while waiting for a client meeting that would never matter as much as that single message. The subject line read, "Congratulations on your recent property sale." I stared at it for a full 30 seconds before my brain caught up with my eyes. Property sale. My property. Except I hadn't sold anything. The house my grandmother left me, the only thing I truly owned in this world, the place I'd been planning to return to after years of building my career in Seattle. That house was supposed to be waiting for me. Untouched. Safe.
Mine.
My hands shook as I opened the email. There were documents attached. Sale records. Transfer of deed. Closing statements. And there, in black and white, was my mother's signature next to mine. Except that wasn't my signature. It looked close, practiced even, but I knew my own handwriting like I knew the sound of my own heartbeat, and that wasn't it. I called her immediately. My mother answered on the third ring, her voice bright and cheerful like she'd just won something. "Riley, sweetheart, I was just thinking about you. What did you do?" My voice came out strangled, barely above a whisper. "What do you mean, honey?" "The house. Grandma's house. What did you do?" There was a pause. Just long enough for me to know that she knew exactly what I was talking about. When she spoke again, her tone had shifted, defensive, almost irritated.
"Oh, that."
"Riley, I was going to tell you. I just sold it last week. We got a really good price, actually. Better than I expected for that old place." "You sold it." I repeated the words because they didn't make sense. "You sold my house." "Well, technically it was complicated, sweetheart. And you weren't using it. It's been sitting empty for 3 years, and the property taxes alone. It wasn't yours to sell." I was shouting now, and people in the coffee shop were turning to look, but I didn't care. "Mom, Grandma left that house to me."
To me.
"Not you. What gave you the right?" "I'm your mother." She cut me off, her voice sharp now. "And I had power of attorney from when you were overseas for work. You never revoked it. Legally, I had every right to make financial decisions on your behalf. That was for emergency purposes. For bill payments if I couldn't be reached. Not to sell my property, behind my back." "You're being dramatic." "The house was falling apart, Riley. Someone had to make the adult decision, and clearly, you weren't going to. I did you a favor." I felt like I was falling, like the ground had opened up beneath me and I was plummeting into darkness. "Where's the money? If you sold it, where's the money from the sale?" Another pause. Longer this time. "I used it to pay off some debts. Your brother needed help with his business, and I had some medical expenses." "You stole from me." The words came out cold, clear. "You forged my signature, sold my property, and stole the money." "I did not steal anything," she hissed. "I'm your mother. Everything I did because you wouldn't handle your responsibilities. You've been so focused on your fancy career, your fancy life in Seattle. You forgot about your family, about the people who actually need you." "I'm calling a lawyer." My voice was steady now, fueled by a rage, so pure it felt almost calm. "You have committed fraud. This is illegal, and I'm going to fix it. Don't you threaten me, young lady. After everything I've done for you, after raising you alone, sacrificing everything." I hung up. My client meeting was a disaster. I couldn't focus, couldn't think about anything except my grandmother's house. The yellow kitchen where she taught me to bake bread. The creaky front porch where we'd sit on summer evenings, drinking sweet tea and watching the fireflies. The bedroom that had been mine every summer of my childhood, with the slanted ceiling and the window that looked out over the garden she'd tended with her own hands until the day she died. She'd left me that house in her will specifically. I remembered the reading, remembered the lawyer explaining that my grandmother had been very clear. The house went to Riley, and only Riley. My mother had been furious then too, but she'd hidden it better. She'd hugged me and told me how happy she was that I had something of my own. I should have known. I should have seen it coming. That night, I barely slept. I spent hours online, researching property law, fraud, forgery. I made lists, timelines. I pulled up every document I had related to the house, my grandmother's will, the power of attorney paperwork my mother had convinced me to sign before a work trip to Singapore 2 years ago. By morning, I had a plan. I called out of work, booked a flight home to North Carolina, and contacted 3 different lawyers. The first 2 gave me sympathetic noises, but not much hope. Property fraud cases were complicated, they said, especially between family members, especially when there was power of attorney involved, even if it had been misused. The third lawyer was different. Her name was Patricia Chern, and she listened to my entire story without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. "This is definitely fraud," she said finally. The power of attorney didn't give her the right to sell property for her own benefit. That's a clear violation. But here's the problem. The sale has already gone through. The buyers are likely innocent third parties who paid fair market value. Unwinding the sale is going to be extremely difficult and expensive. So, what can I do? We can pursue criminal charges against your mother for fraud and forgery. We can sue her civilly for the value of the property plus damages. But getting the actual house back? That's going to be nearly impossible unless the current buyers agree to reverse the sale, which they have no legal obligation to do. I felt sick. How long would all of this take? Months. Maybe years. And it would cost you tens of thousands in legal fees, with no guarantee of success. There has to be another way. Patricia was quiet again. Then she said, "There might be. It's unconventional, but if we move fast enough, and I mean very fast, we might be able to pressure your mother into fixing this before it becomes irreversible. But you'd have to be willing to play hardball. Really hardball. Tell me what to do." I landed in Charlotte the next afternoon and drove straight to my mother's house. I didn't call ahead. I wanted to see her face when I showed up at her door. She answered in yoga pants and a stained t-shirt, her hair pulled back in a messy bun. When she saw me, her expression went from surprise to defensive in half a second. "Riley, I didn't know you were coming. We need to talk." I pushed past her into the house. It looked the same as always, cluttered, worn furniture, stacks of magazines on every surface. The TV was on, playing some reality show at high volume. My mother closed the door slowly, her arms crossing over her chest. "I don't appreciate you just showing up like this. And I don't appreciate you committing fraud." I turned to face her. "You're going to fix this. You're going to contact the buyers, explain that there was a mistake, and reverse the sale. You're going to do it within 72 hours. She laughed. Actually laughed. "Are you insane? The sale is done, Riley. It's over. You need to accept that and move on." "No." I pulled out my phone and opened the email from Patricia. "I've hired a lawyer. A really good lawyer. She's prepared to file criminal charges against you for fraud, forgery, and theft. She's also prepared to file a civil lawsuit for the full value of the property, plus punitive damages. Do you know what that means, Mom?
It means prison time.
It means losing everything you have." Her face paled. "You wouldn't. Try me." I stepped closer. "You have 72 hours to contact those buyers and reverse the sale. If you don't, I file charges. And I won't stop there. I'll make sure everyone knows what you did. Your friends, your church group, your book club. I'll tell them all how you stole from your own daughter." "You're bluffing." "Am I?" I held up my phone, showing her the prepared legal documents. "Patricia is waiting for my call. All I have to do is say the word, and this becomes official. Your choice, Mom. Fix it or face the consequences." She stared at me for a long moment, her expression cycling through anger, fear, and something that might have been hatred. Finally, she said, "You're being ridiculous. Even if I wanted to reverse the sale, the buyers might not agree. They've already moved in. Then you'll have to convince them. Offer them their money back, plus extra, for the inconvenience. I don't care how you do it. You created this mess, you fix it. And where am I supposed to get that kind of money? That's not my problem. Maybe ask my brother, since you gave him my money in the first place." I turned toward the door. 72 hours, Mom. Starting now." I drove straight to a hotel. I couldn't stay in her house, couldn't breathe the same air as her. The betrayal felt like a physical weight on my chest, crushing me with every breath. That night, I lay awake in the generic hotel room, staring at the ceiling and remembering. My grandmother had been the only stable force in my chaotic childhood. While my mother cycled through jobs and relationships and emotional crises, my grandmother was constant. Every summer, I'd escape to her house, and she'd make me feel like I mattered, like I was enough. When she got sick, I was the one who came home to take care of her. I took a leave from work, spent 6 months helping her through chemo and radiation, and eventually hospice. My mother visited twice. My brother didn't come at all. In those final weeks, my grandmother held my hand and told me she was leaving me the house because she knew I'd take care of it. She knew I'd love it the way she had. She made me promise to keep it in the family, to maybe raise my own children there someday. And my mother had sold it like it meant nothing. I called Patricia in the morning. What if she doesn't fix it? What if 72 hours passes and nothing changes? Then we file charges and proceed with the lawsuit. But Riley, I have to be honest with you. Even if we win everything, it could take years to see any money. Your mother might not have significant assets to seize. The criminal case might not result in serious jail time, especially for a first offense. This is a long, ugly road. I know. There's something else you should consider. I did some digging on the property sale. The buyers who purchased the house, they're a young couple, first-time homeowners. They have a baby. They paid fair market value, and they had no idea the sale was fraudulent. If this goes to court and somehow we manage to reverse the sale, those people lose their home through no fault of their own. I closed my eyes. I hadn't thought about the buyers as real people. In my mind, they'd been abstract, just obstacles between me and my grandmother's house. But of course they were real. Of course they were innocent. What are you saying? I'm saying you need to think about what justice actually looks like here. Is it getting the house back? Is it punishing your mother? Is it just getting made whole financially? Because you might not be able to have all three. I spent the day driving around my hometown, past places I'd forgotten I remembered. My old elementary school. The library where my grandmother took me every Saturday. The diner where we'd have pancakes for dinner when she was too tired to cook. Eventually, I found myself parked outside my grandmother's house. My house. The house that should have been mine. It looked different. The new owners had painted the shutters a cheerful blue. There were new flowers in the garden and children's toys scattered across the front lawn. Through the window, I could see someone moving around in the kitchen, a woman, young, holding a baby on her hip. I watched her for a long time, this stranger living in my house, and felt something shift inside me. That night, my mother called. I talked to the buyers, she said without preamble. Her voice sounded strained, exhausted. They don't want to reverse the sale. They love the house. They've already put work into it. And even if they wanted to, they don't have the money to give back. They used their entire savings for the down payment. Then you'll have to buy it back from them. With what money, Riley? I don't have that kind of cash. I told you, everything from the sale went to expenses. You mean you spent it all already? I felt cold. You sold my house, my inheritance, and you've already blown through the money. She was crying now. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I thought I was doing the right thing. The house was just sitting there and your brother needed help, and I had medical bills. Stop. I couldn't listen to her excuses anymore. You weren't doing the right thing. You were doing the selfish thing. The easy thing. And, you know what the worst part is? You didn't even ask me. You knew I'd say no, so you just did it behind my back. I'm your mother.
No.
You're not. Not anymore. The words came out harder than I intended, but once they were out, I realized I meant them. Mothers protect their children. They don't steal from them. Whatever relationship we had, you destroyed it the moment you forged my signature on those papers. Riley, please. I hung up. 48 hours had passed. I had 24 hours left on my ultimatum, but I already knew my mother wasn't going to fix this. She couldn't. Even if she wanted to, she'd burned through the money and had no way to reverse what she'd done. I called Patricia. File the charges. All of them. and file the civil suit. Are you sure? I'm sure. Okay. I'll need you to come to my office tomorrow to sign some documents. In the meantime, I need to ask you something. What do you really want out of this? What does winning look like for you? I thought about the young woman in my grandmother's kitchen, the baby on her hip, the blue shutters, the toys on the lawn. I thought about my grandmother's voice in my memory, telling me to keep the house and the family, to love it like she had. I want my mother to face consequences for what she did, I said slowly. Real consequences. I want the money she stole from me. And I want her to understand that she can't just take whatever she wants without destroying everything around her. Okay, Patricia said. Then let's make it happen. The next 72 hours were a blur of paperwork and phone calls and depositions. Patricia worked fast, filing criminal complaints with the district attorney's office and initiating a civil lawsuit against my mother for fraud, theft, and breach of fiduciary duty. The DA took the case. That surprised me. I'd expected them to dismiss it as a family matter, but Patricia explained that the clear paper trail of forgery and the power of attorney abuse made it a strong case. My mother was formally charged with felony fraud. The news spread through my hometown like wildfire. Small towns are like that. Everyone knows everyone's business, and scandal travels at light speed. I started getting calls and messages from people I hadn't talked to in years. Some were supportive. Others thought I was being cruel, destroying my own mother over a misunderstanding. My brother called me screaming. Do you have any idea what you've done? Mom could go to prison. And for what? A house you weren't even using? You're being selfish and vindictive. She stole from me, Jason. She committed fraud. She's our mother. She made a mistake. You're supposed to forgive family. Did you know? The question came out before I could stop it. Did you know what she was planning? He was quiet for too long. You did know. I felt something break inside me. You knew and you didn't warn me. You just took the money and kept your mouth shut. She needed help with my business and you had that house just sitting there. It wasn't yours. Neither of you had any right. I stopped myself. You know what? I'm done. With both of you. Lose my number, Jason. I hung up and blocked him. Then I sat on my hotel bed and cried for 20 minutes straight. Not for my mother or my brother or even for the house. I cried for the family I'd thought I had. The family that turned out to never exist. 3 weeks later, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Is this Riley Mitchell? Yes. My name is Sarah Henderson. I'm the woman who bought your grandmother's house. I'm so sorry to bother you, but I wanted to talk to you about what's happening. My throat went tight. Okay. I've been following the case. I saw the news stories, and my lawyer explained everything to me. I want you to know that we had no idea. We thought it was a normal sale. If we had known your mother was doing this without your permission, we never would have bought the house. I know. It's not your fault. I feel terrible about this. I keep thinking about you losing your grandmother's house, and I can't imagine how awful that must be. So I talked to my husband and we want to do something. I waited. We can't afford to reverse the sale completely. We really did put everything we had into buying this house. But what we can do is sell it back to you at the price we paid, with no profit. And we can work out a payment plan if you need time to get the financing together. It's not perfect, but it's the best we can offer. I couldn't speak. Tears were streaming down my face. Are you there? Sarah asked softly. I'm here. Thank you. You don't have to do this. I know, but it feels like the right thing to do. This house is special. I can feel it. It should be yours. We met the next day. Sarah and her husband Tom were exactly what I'd imagined. Young, earnest, deeply in love with my grandmother's house. Their baby girl, Emma, was 7 months old and had her mother's dark curls. We sat in the living room, my grandmother's living room, and they showed me everything they'd done to the place. They'd fixed the leaky roof, updated the electrical, painted the walls in soft, warm colors. They'd treated the house with respect and care. We fell in love with it the moment we saw it, Sarah said, holding Emma in her lap. It felt like a real home, you know? Like it had good energy. It does, I said. My grandmother, she poured so much love into this place. You can feel it, Tom said. That's why we want to give it back to you. We can find another house, but this one belongs to you. We worked out the details over the next week. I would buy the house from them at the original sale price, which was actually fair market value. My mother hadn't undersold it, at least. Patricia helped me arrange financing, and Sarah and Tom agreed to stay in the house until everything was finalized, paying me rent that would go toward the purchase price. It wasn't perfect. I was going to be in debt, taking on a mortgage for a house I'd originally inherited free and clear. But it was better than losing the house forever. It was justice of a kind. The criminal case against my mother moved forward. She hired a lawyer, a public defender who tried to argue that there had been a misunderstanding, that she believed she was acting in my best interest. But the paper trail was damning. The forged signature, the power of attorney abuse, the immediate spending of the proceeds. The DA offered her a plea deal. Plead guilty to felony fraud, serve probation, pay full restitution, and avoid jail time. She took it. The civil case was faster. My mother had no defense, and the judge ruled in my favor. She was ordered to pay me the full value of the property, plus damages and legal fees. It came to just over $300,000. She didn't have $300,000. She didn't have $30,000. The judgment would follow her for the rest of her life, garnishing any wages or assets she acquired. She'd never pay it off. I didn't care about the money anymore. I cared that she couldn't just walk away from what she'd done. I cared that there was a permanent record of her fraud, her theft, her betrayal. I cared that everyone knew the truth. People told me I was being too harsh, that I should show mercy, forgive, move on. They said I was destroying her life over a house. But it was never just about a house. It was about my grandmother trusting me with her most precious possession, and my mother treating that trust like it meant nothing. It was about years of watching my mother make terrible decisions and expect everyone else to clean up her messes. It was about finally drawing a line and saying, this far and no further. Some betrayals can't be forgiven. Some bridges need to be burned. 6 months later, I moved back into my grandmother's house. Sarah and Tom had moved to a different neighborhood, into a house they loved just as much. We stayed in touch. They'd become friends, strangely enough. They'd send me pictures of Emma, and I'd send them updates on the garden. I quit my job in Seattle and found work in Raleigh, close enough to commute. The house needed work, and I couldn't afford to leave it sitting empty anymore. I needed to be there to take care of it the way my grandmother had asked me to. My mother tried to contact me a few times. Letters, mostly, that I threw away without reading. My brother sent me a message on my birthday, a long paragraph about family and forgiveness that I deleted without responding. Maybe someday I'd be ready to talk to them again. Maybe someday the betrayal would hurt less, and I'd be able to have some kind of relationship with them. But not today. Maybe not ever. I stood in my grandmother's kitchen one evening, my kitchen now, making bread the way she'd taught me. The late afternoon sun streamed through the windows she used to wash every spring, casting golden light across the counters. Outside, the garden was bursting with tomatoes and zucchini and herbs. This house had cost me more than I'd ever imagined. It had cost me my family, my savings, months of my life consumed by legal battles and stress. It had cost me the naive belief that mothers always protect their children, that blood relationships come with guaranteed loyalty. But standing there in that kitchen, feeling my grandmother's presence in every corner, I knew I'd made the right choice. Some things are worth fighting for. Some legacies are worth protecting, no matter the cost. The house was mine again. Truly mine this time. And no one could take it away. I pulled the bread from the oven, the smell filling the kitchen with warmth and memory. Outside, the fireflies were just starting to appear, flickering in the dusk like tiny stars. I poured myself a glass of sweet tea and walked out to the front porch, settling into the same chair my grandmother used to sit in. The evening was perfect, warm but not hot, with just enough breeze to rustle the leaves. This was justice. Not the legal kind, though that had been necessary. The real justice was this, sitting in my grandmother's chair, in my grandmother's house, living the life she'd wanted for me, breaking the cycle of selfishness and chaos that my mother had tried to drag me into. I was free of her now, free of the obligation to fix her mistakes, to sacrifice myself for her comfort, to pretend that family meant accepting abuse and betrayal. The house had taught me that. My grandmother had taught me that. Some gifts are worth fighting for. Some promises are sacred. And some battles, no matter how painful, absolutely must be won.